All right, everybody, welcome to Tesla Today. This is going to be an amazing show, I promise you. It's going to be a lot of fun for us to review in the history of Tesla, all of the key milestones, the key moments that matter to the company. I've got 8 videos to show you. We're going to relive the memory, but more importantly, we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about the future. What events are happening today that's about to happen this year that are in the future of the history of the world? What's going to be the most important things? We've got Brian White joining me. Brian is the host of his own YouTube channel called MyTeslaWeekend. And actually, I'm so happy he's the one here today because he, like me, spend hours and days in our entire lives focusing on Tesla's history. So welcome, Brian. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Herbert. It's a pleasure as always.
It's a lot of fun. Thanks, Brian. So let's go going. There's so much to cover as always, a lot of videos in this case. So let's get going. So what we've got here, first of all, is a table that I've created. I've shared many times on Twitter. If you want to find it, go to @HerbertOng on Twitter, and I'll be actually packaging this up together and all my tables together. But this is a list of all the key milestones that Tesla has ever had from 2003 to 2021. I've got separate tables for 2022 and 2023. So you can see there's quite a bit all the way from the founding of the company, which we'll discuss, and the key moments as we move forward. So I broke this down to 4 sections. The first section is from 2003 to 2012. And the first thing, of course, is Tesla Motors. It's, it says here that it was founded by Eberhard and Tarpenning, but we're going to talk about what exactly, if that is exactly true, and exactly who are the actual founders. And the actual date is July 1st. I don't know why I put June. It's actually July 1st, which is a few days ago was the 20th anniversary for Tesla. And that's why we're doing this today. And you can see that 6 months later, Elon invested $30 million as chairman of the board. They didn't really have any funding at that point. So let's go watch a few of this. I'm gonna share a little bit of the story here. You can hear from both sides. I'm gonna share you video from what Eberhard and Tarpenning said, and then what Elon had said afterwards. Let's watch that.
Elon Musk is the most famous Tesla CEO.
Hey, everyone.
But Martin Eberhard and Mark Tarpenning were the original founding executives. CNBC sat down with them to talk about the earliest days at Tesla.
There are a lot of people who don't realize you two started the company. How do you respond to people who think that Elon is the creator of Tesla?
Elon was, investor in Series A. He was very supportive always, financially and on the board. And then he became the CEO. He's actually the 4th, I think that's right, the 4th CEO of Tesla. And he has taken
Second chairman of the board.
Second chairman of the board. And he's taken it, to heights that are, fantastic. So he's done an amazing job. But yeah, and he was always supportive, from the beginning, but he wasn't the founder in the sense of he wasn't, we started it.
Well, I mean, this is one of the things that I found kind of fascinating about him is that he's actually accomplished some amazing things in his own right.
He's totally amazing.
Yeah, SpaceX is amazing, and he's done some interesting things with Tesla for sure. I'm not sure why he has to also say that he was a founder when he wasn't. I don't understand that.
No.
All right, Brian, what's your reaction when you saw that?
What sour grapes? The guy made you a billionaire and you're still salty. He wasn't there the day the articles of incorporation were filed. But when he came on board, there was no prototype. There was no design. There was no office. It was a PO box and a couple of dudes who said, wouldn't it be cool if you could make electric cars? If that's what it takes to be a founder, I am also a founder of many great things that are not real or material. It'd be great if they had a prototype. He's the one who connected them with the T0, which was the basis for the underlying technology in the early days. And the framing from CNBC is just hilarious. How do you feel that he's calling himself the founder? The whole point of that lawsuit, by the way, wasn't that Elon sued them so that he could. No, it was that they were saying they listed Elon as one of the founders, and these clowns took issue with it and filed a lawsuit against him to say, no, you can never say that again. And the judge looked at it and said, come on now, that's ridiculous.
Exactly. So basically what happened, and we're going to review this in detail here because it's important that people know that these two filed the paperwork. Absolutely true, right? Formed the company. But when do you consider a company as a company? When the paperwork's put in, they had no car, they had no funding, and the funding arrived 6 months later by Elon. These two did not put in, millions of dollars. And at the same time, during that period of time, you'll hear that JB Straubel and Elon were talking to this other company to create the prototype, just like these two were. And so theoretically, Elon could have easily, and he kind of regrets it now, started a separate company with JB alone. He did not need to work with these two. So let's watch what Elon is saying about his response. His response to that one.
What would you say, like, when you first joined Tesla, like, everyone thinks that you weren't the founder of, everyone tries to correct you on that. He didn't found it. Like, what did it actually consist of, right? Because I think a lot of people just think that someone else started it, you joined later, and whatever. But obviously, that's not true. So
that is not true. The reason people think that is because Everhard has engaged in a nonstop campaign to try to effectively gain sole credit for Tesla for himself, and he's the worst person I have ever worked with, and that is saying something. Okay, I've worked with some real assholes. Okay, so for somebody to be the worst person I have ever worked with, by far, that's not easy, is what I'm saying. So the actual origin of Tesla goes to 2003 when I had lunch with JV in El Segundo, and we got to talking about electric cars, and JV said, hey, have you tried the AC propulsion T0? I said, no, but we talked about battery technology and how the lithium ion would finally enable a long range car. I never heard of Everhard at this point. Never heard of him. So then I got a test drive from AC propulsion T0, and I was like, wow, okay, this is pretty cool. So at first I was like, well, can you guys just make me a T0? I'll buy one from you. And they didn't want to make another one. So I was like, okay. And I said, you guys should really commercialize the T0, because the T0 had all the properties that we later had in the Roadster. It's sort of like 250-mile range, 0 to 60 under 4 seconds, or roughly 4 seconds. And it was a two-door. Well, it didn't have doors, admittedly, the T0. But it looks, you can see a resemblance between the T0 and the Roadster.
All right, Brian. So this is him responding to that. What's your comments on that? And right after that, I'll show you guys the Roadster prototype that was revealed by 2006.
I was just giggling the whole time because it is tough to be the worst person. And I am not surprised by that. Just watching that clip, it was so cringy. The guy felt like a big old smarm machine and like, oh, I'm actually the brains of the operation. Are you? Because that's not plausible. It doesn't... I looked it up during the clip, by the way. Martin Eberhard is not a billionaire. Do you know why he's not a billionaire? Because he sold his stock in 2007 before the Roadster launched. Yeah. So if you wish to be a visionary, perhaps you should have vision, perhaps you should execute. But I think we've given him more than enough.
More enough airtime. I mean, at the end of the day, he actually did not put in his money that he needed to put in. It was Elon who invested $30 million. $30 million
that time,
when there was nothing there at that time. Yeah. So, enough of this. I mean, at the end of the day, sure, they put their name in, but and like you said, he left right away. So let's take a look at some of the actual Roadster. This is 3 years later, 2006. They revealed the prototype of the Roadster.
Hello everyone, this is Sebastian Blanco. I'm here for Autoblog Green and Netscape.com. We're at the unveiling of the Tesla Roadster, which you can see right behind me. It is an all-electric vehicle or all-electric motor-powered sport car.
I think global warming is a very serious issue, and it's something that we have to address, and the only way to address that is to come up with a car that doesn't add carbon emissions to the environment. And I think the way to do that is with electric vehicles.
We are back here backstage at the unveiling of the Tesla Roadster. I'm here with Martin Eberhard.
All right, and then I'm going to show you this
Hi,
video.
I'm JB Straubel. I'm the CTO at Tesla Motors, and I'm here with Web Rides TV in the Tesla Motors booth. This is the Tesla Roadster, our first model car behind us here, and what's really unique about this is that it's an all-electric car. This is not a hybrid, it's 100% electric, so all of the energy to move this car comes from electricity that you get when you plug it in and recharge overnight. That makes the car much cleaner and much more efficient than any other car that you'll find on the road today. This vehicle uses lithium-ion battery technology. The battery should last for over 100,000 miles and 5 years, whichever comes first. Range is really the thing that will age on the battery pack. Yet we also have extremely high performance along with it. We have 0 to 60 acceleration in just under 4 seconds, and we can also maintain about a 250-mile driving range on the EPA highway cycle. This car is really a joy to drive. I mean, the torque characteristics of the motor make it just phenomenal. You have 100% of the torque available at 0 speed. We start production on this car in the summer of 2007. We plan to build about 4,000 to 5,000 total of this model car. We are in development right now in a future product that's a 4-door, 5-place sedan. That's still in the very early concept phases, and will probably be first seen in about 2010. I'm JB Straubel here with Web Rides TV at the LA Auto Show.
All right, I needed to show the whole thing because I thought that it was very important for us to see the Roadster, which is the very first electric vehicle that really proved without the doubt that this is not just a golf cart, that this thing is faster, it has all these amazing benefits, and this shows you the future, right? When you see something like that, you go, that's just a prototype. Who knew that 10 years later, 15 years later, this is going to just take over the world? So, yeah.
And what I love is with most companies, the prototype looks nothing like the finished product.
Yeah.
And what we just saw right there was a Roadster prototype, if you want to call it that. But that is exactly what the Roadster was. That one might be in space right now. I don't know if that's the actual one because you can't tell because they're indiscernible. So that's and it's very exciting to look back and see what a scrappy company it was. And they were really scrappy. And they said, oh, well, we are working on a 5-seater. We hope to show it in 2010. I looked it up. They showed it in 2011. I'm pretty sure that's right. No, the unveiling was in 2009, maybe. Boy, it's tough
the unveiling, the prototype, which was what we're going to show right now, 2009. But in the meantime, let's just review what we did here. 2003, they founded the company. 2006, 3 years later, they revealed the Roadster. I do remember how difficult it was for them to do this. And then the Roadster became in production in 2008, and then they announced the Model S sedan. And then this
I would say real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll get. Oh, yeah, I would say real quick. If you see the T0, which I think is still on display at the Peterson Museum in Los Angeles, I have seen it. The DNA is clearly shared with what eventually became the Roadster, and there's a couple different iterations of the original Roadster in that display. I assume that exhibit is still up because it's quite popular. It's a big draw. You can see how much DNA was shared there. So really, if we're going to, I mean, I hate to go back to it, but if we're going to talk about founders, shouldn't we give the T0 guys a lot more credit?
Yes.
No, because,
it was built off of that. Yeah, exactly. And right. No, that's a good point because the T0 guys built that prototype. It's actually working, but then they decided not to put that into production. And that's where Elon and JP said, that's really unfortunate. Somebody needs to take this out there. And they were the ones that actually took it. They actually were even looking at it before. Anyways, yeah. So
the T0 guys looked at the business model and said, there is no way on earth we can commercialize this vehicle. And they were right. Yeah. For every other company, it's been suicide.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So we got to move on. There's so much things.
Yeah.
This is basically the founding, the Roadster. Then we've got the Model S prototype. Now, just on December 2008, though, okay, this is the moment that Elon said they were within hours of not being able to pay the salaries. And the last moment, Christmas Eve, funding arrived. Obviously, there's no video to show this. We just heard him talking about this. What did you find out about this, Brian?
Well, so that was, they basically put out the word to their existing shareholders and said, it's do or die. We are out of cash. And it was the existing shareholders who agreed to pony up another 40 million. And it was pretty hilarious. He said, at the time, he said, I think I can find, it was on a Reuters article, said 40 million is obviously more than enough to finish what we started. Oh, that's adorable. 40 million in automotive is nothing. And looking back, 40 million is now a rounding error. And other companies since then have taken a very different approach. Now, if you look at the big dogs, Lucid recently said, oh man, you know what we need is just another $4 billion. And even that is not going to save them. But yeah, so it was existing investors who came up with additional cash because they could see it.
That's a very, very good point, right? I mean, we're now seeing other companies who are pure EV plays, of course, just to compare apples to apples, and they are spending, like you said, $20 billion, and they're struggling. And here, never been done before. They producing it a few years later, and obviously they were losing money. But I think we showed in a previous episode they were losing maybe $2 billion, not $20 billion. And the magnitude difference because of Elon's focus on cost cutting. So 2018 December was the Christmas Eve funding that saved the company. 2009 March, which is 3 months later, they showed the prototype of the actual Model S. I'm sure that was part of why folks decided, hey, let's continue this because this is pretty impressive. So 3 months later, this is the prototype of the Model S. Brian, that's the Roadsters, right?
Yes.
Those are still the Roadsters. So I think we're going to be seeing the prototype. I'm going to pause it. Obviously, we can't hear him. I'm just going to jump around here so you can see it a little bit better.
I love it.
Okay, let's pause it there. Yeah, what were we going to
And
say?
it's fun because Franz is you can see he's looking at it. It's his baby. I made this. This is mine. And he was a designer for other big companies. He was at Mazda. I think he was at General Motors. I don't remember if it was General Motors, but I want to say he was designed some Pontiacs. But he had never been able to design something that was actually going to be built the way he designed it, the way it looked when he was finished with it. And that unveiling, that car looks almost exactly like what we actually got on the road, with some very subtle differences. And yeah, it's just wonderful to see them bringing things to life. And I imagine the investors got to see that 3 months earlier, because that's surely what allowed them to raise that 40 million. Is they said, look, the prototype is here. We've got it. We just got to build the damn thing. 40 million, please. Which really, in hindsight, was a bargain.
Hey there, thank you for joining me. If you can, please consider supporting this channel so I can keep it going. It's a lot of work arranging all these amazing interviews. One of the easiest ways is just to click that join button and become a member of the channel. Thank you very much. Let's get brighter. Yeah, absolutely. So, okay. Christmas Eve funding, Model S prototype revealed, and then they're still struggling. Okay, they're not IPO. The IPO happens in 2010, which is like 7 years after they invested and started the company, which isn't pretty bad. That's pretty fast, actually. And then, but they received Daimler funding. This was another critical investment model that they needed to do. Let's listen to that situation of the Daimler funding that happened, because again, we've heard him say that if that didn't happen, the company wouldn't be around today.
We need to get a smart car, and we need to stuff a Roadster powertrain into it and make it a custom battery, and it needs to work by the time the Daimler team comes here in January.
So this is really interesting. Look at...
There were no smart cars were not being sold in the US, but they were being sold in Mexico. So we sent someone to Mexico to just buy a smart car and drive across the border. So this is a gasoline smart car, so just with Mexican plates.
So what do you think, Brian? Obviously Daimler, you tell me the story. So Daimler needed to create a compliance car, the smart car or something like that?
Yeah, they needed to make something. They needed to get their feet into that space. And do we really want to put our guys on it? You know what? I know those guys in California would like to throw their hat in the ring. So let's just go out and see what they have to say. What could it hurt? Let's set up a time. We'll go out in January. And Elon saw this as another do or die moment. So many in the company's history. Thank goodness we're past that point. And yeah, they went down. They bought a car off a dealer, brought it up, tore it apart, and said, yeah, if we can wow them, we'll get this contract. And Mercedes was not convinced going in. They're like, well, we'll give them a meeting. Who knows? We'll probably build it ourselves. And they got there, and what they saw was they had the meeting. It was this little slideshow. They were not impressed. And they said, what do you think, guys? And they're like, yeah, it's fine. We'll think about it. He goes, well, would you like to go outside and see it? Like, see what? The car, the proto, it's done. Come look. They're like, you've got to be joking. They went out, and there it was. The biggest problem they had was keeping the damn thing from popping a wheelie. I imagine they had to software limit it because the wheelbase is so short and the torque is so extreme. And they're like, no, it's done. It's right here. We can build these. Would you like to? And if you're Mercedes, that is a compelling sales pitch because it's no promises. The promise is here it is.
It's unbelievable. Like you just said, they were able to convert a car and make it happen and do it as faster than people realize. When I think about it, it's crazy, isn't it? That the company's actually only 20 years old. And
yeah,
they're not only doing EVs now, as we know, energy bots, gigafactories all over.
And when you said that the IPO came very quickly, looking back, nobody goes that slow anymore. Now they all IPO via SPAC before they've even got revenue. And what a disaster that has turned out to be. There's a reason that's a loophole and not just the rule. If you had to actually show solid financial ground before you could IPO, you do, and they don't.
So for a car company, right, everybody knows how difficult it is to build a car company from scratch. It's just never ending money pit. But when you're always concerned about cash, you're always just trying to conserve it. You build your company a certain way, with cost reductions being the key principle. And now we're seeing other EV companies who are flush with cash. People threw billions and billions at them, and they're blowing that money faster.
Well, like you and I talked about last week, when we were talking about Lucid on my channel, the thing that when Tesla said we want to make a better EV, what they meant is we want to make it better from a business perspective. And when all their competitors said we want to build a Tesla but better, they meant more expensive. And if you want to build something more expensive, the sky's the limit, baby. But that doesn't mean you're going to be in business for very long. So yeah, cost controls have been key.
So this is critical. They're about to die. 2009, they go public, and then this was the moment. They don't even have a factory yet. They were just working out of garages. If you saw that, they buy former GM Toyota factory in Fremont. So this is their first major factory. I think that was the first one that they did. So let's take a look at that one and see how they announced that one.
Super exciting day for Tesla. I think one of the most exciting days in Tesla history. Because we're announcing this historic partnership with Tesla and Toyota. It consists of three major areas. Toyota is making an investment in Tesla. There is going to be also the NUMMI plant. We will be purchasing the NUMMI plant and making the Model S and other cars there. And then thirdly, we're going to collaborate on joint ventures in electric vehicles. So we're going to create some electric vehicles together. It's a great honor for Tesla to work with a company like Toyota.
Thank you very much, Mr. Musk. I would also like to thank Governor Schwarzenegger.
Ooh, that got me.
Is there some sort of like, I gotta say, that's Toyota making a deal with Elon, and really way back in 2010, and yet they had these. Daimler had an opportunity to keep their shares. Toyota had an opportunity to move forward with this and have a strong partnership. They just let it go.
And Toyota did own what the deal for the factory was an amazing deal for everyone. They bought it in exchange for shares. That's all they got was shares. They might have gotten a little bit of cash, but I don't recall now. And it was a factory no one else wanted because it was a purpose-built auto factory. Anyone else who bought it would not have built cars there. So this just makes sense. We get some shares in a company. If they go down in value, that's fine. We still got some value. And if they go up, great. And I don't know if you heard this or not, but the shares went up. And if Toyota had just held on to them, they would be the richest car company in the world at this point, for sure. And like you said, they worked together to make the electric RAV4. Those are still on the road. They're good little cars. And Toyota just blew it. Ridiculous.
Okay, let's take a look at the
NUMMI copies, and but actually there's an enormous amount of innovation and engineering that goes into making a large quantity of something perfectly every time, and so having that close interaction of engineering and production, I think, is also extremely important, because we want to really stay at the forefront of innovation as far as electric vehicles are concerned, and continue to serve as a catalyst for the transition to a sustainable energy future. We have a very big sign, and we're going to raise the curtain on the sign.
Is there a
this may take a while.
Or something?
Right. Here we go. Okay.
Oh, look at that. Oh, that's great. Now I get a chill, actually. That's great.
All right, Brian, this is your thing. You're Mr. Gigafactory, and that was the beginning of a factory.
Yeah, and
Humble.
there's all kinds of early reports. People would go in there and they'd see the Model S production line and say, this place is a gosh darn cavern. It is huge. They will never fill this. Never. This is, at the time, the biggest factory, the biggest single factory in the US, among the bigger in the world. It's millions of square feet to build a car. To which Tesla said, well, we're going to go ahead and do things a little differently. We need to make our own motors. Let's make our motors here too. And they took up a little bit more space. And then they added the Model X and took up a little more. And pretty soon they're looking around going, we're out of space. We're out of space. You could head off on your lunch break and just wander the ginormous empty spaces. But no, it turned out to be like all their factories. When you look at them, you think that's too much. They'll never need it all. You know, the 100 acres in Shanghai, it's huge. It's a giant mud field. They'll never fill it. And it is beyond capacity now. Just how they do it.
That's how they do it. And so what we've done here is spent 30 minutes on the very first, we got so much to go. 2003 to 2012, first 10 years, this is what we did. But the reason I did is because I think this is critical. The company almost died many times. It shows you the resilience of the company, the ability for them to really just make it happen by the Roadster, the Model S, the NUMMI factory, the fundings that they were able to get, and that which is the smart car conversion and all that. So that was critical. Then we've got from 2012 to 2017, you got the supercharger stations. We now know, right, Brian? We now know this is 10 years ago. They decided to do superchargers when they didn't have very many cars out there. He really had a vision for electric vehicles that went beyond just the 100,000s that they were trying to sell at that point, right? Tens and 20,000s. Model S went in production. So in order to people buy that, you need to have some superchargers. 6 in California, buddy. Look at that. First quarterly profit. They paid back the loan. And there's a huge discussion on that I'm not going to cover today. Giga Nevada was announced. Were you born yet, Brian? Giga factories. Were you following Tesla 2014 or not?
I sure was. And I thought the Gigafactory was a mistake, but I've since learned better than to question time travelers.
Okay. And then Model X was in production. Autopilot was launched in 2015. So these are like the birth of things that, at the time they just announced it, but today we know how important these things are. We're going to spend some time on the Model 3 because of production hell, but this is where the Model 3 started happening. Any thoughts on this stretch of years here, Brian?
It was a time of amazing execution is what it was. It was a time of great vision and execution. There were a lot of things that I would have done differently as CEO. First of all, I never would have done the Model S. That's crazy. No company has ever done this. A new company making their own from scratch mass-produced car. The last company to do this was Jeep, and that was 60 years earlier. And that was an easy car. That was a kit you could build in your own garage. There are parades where the guys walk down the street, and when they pause, they disassemble the Jeep and then put it back together and then keep rolling. That's how simple they were. And this is complicated stuff. The battery factory, unveiling all these products, pushing with their own, paying researchers to do battery research. It was. And then actually making it all work. The odds were stacked against them, and they made it work.
You're making very, very good points because, again, today we're looking at this thing goes, yeah, that makes sense. But actually back then, like you said, them announcing a factory for batteries only, superchargers only, autopilot, acquiring Solar City. Yeah, that's, it was like, what?
Why wouldn't you just buy batteries off the shelf like everyone else? Well, because we need a quantity that doesn't exist. We need a price that cannot be had any other way. And
then they've got Model 3, Model X, and then Semi was revealed as well. No wonder they're delayed sometimes. Come on, guys. They got a lot on their table. All right. So then we go, here we go. Boom. 2020 to 2021. Here we go. So we've got 4680 battery cell revealed. FSD beta released, a small group. Dojo supercomputer announced. Tesla bot announced. Oh, did I skip a year?
No, those are 2020 and 21. I don't think you skipped a year.
Oh,
well, 2019 would have been the Cybertruck. Yeah, you skipped that.
No, I skipped it. From 2018 to 2020, you got production hell for Model 3 mass market. So we're going to talk about that right now. Let me share with you the production hell. Again, I'm focusing on the most important moments in history of Tesla. let's watch a little bit of production hell and remind ourselves what it looked like.
Company Tesla has suffered a series of very public challenges since the beginning of this year. Its high-profile CEO, Elon Musk, calls this period a production hell. Most of the troubles revolve around the company's Model 3 sedan. It's the first mid-price electric car. Earlier this week, Musk took us on a tour of his Silicon Valley factory. And this is the first time network cameras were allowed inside the Model 3 production line. Going to look at the batteries.
We divided the general assembly into 3 parts, and the middle part is where we put the battery pack and motor in. And so we call that marriage.
Elon, what's the hardest part? Pre-marriage, marriage, post-marriage?
Right now, marriage is the hardest part.
Marriage is the hardest part. Elon Musk's relationship with outside analysts and investors is also going through a rough patch these days.
I'm definitely under stress, so if I seem like I'm not under stress, then I'm going to be clear, I'm definitely under stress.
In the past month, Tesla has issued a voluntary recall of 123,000 of its older Model S vehicles, dealt with a fatal crash of a vehicle equipped with its semi-autonomous driving system, and suffered a downgrade of its credit status on Wall Street. The Model 3, still in your mind, is the face and the future of the company, is it not?
Yes, absolutely.
But the most important thing on his mind these days is solving production delays for the Tesla's new Model 3 sedan here at his massive factory in Silicon Valley. You started saying we'll do 5,000.
Let's pause it for a second. What's your thinking about that? So, I mean, yeah, the company was about to go down. They were credit rating. We already started hearing the mainstream media attacking the company. There was a lot of, Tesla is going to go bankrupt 2018. Everybody thought it was going to happen. Everybody thought it was going to happen.
Everybody thought it was possible. I thought it was possible. It was possible. I had confidence, but I did not have a degree of confidence that led me to invest. I was not yet invested in Tesla. They were in a tough spot. It is, and the sheer audacity of Peter Rawlinson at Lucid looking on and saying, well, not everyone experiences production hell. Welcome to hell, Peter. There's it's ridiculous to think that we know now why it happened. One of the problems was Elon was trying to do things that had never been done. He was trying to automate processes and procedures that had always been a human tactile experience, and it didn't work. And some of those mistakes came back to be huge benefits. When they wanted to add an additional line outside in the sprung structure, they had extra robots laying around they could just use. All the ones they had tried to use to snake the wiring harness through the dash and whatnot, and everything, all of that hell made them stronger. It forged them into a stronger machine. And so,
I think,
looking back,
Elon himself into a strong. I mean, this must have shaped his viewpoint in the world, or just him being able to accomplish this. So let's watch him.
Built as the company's first mid-priced, mass-produced electric car, accessible to middle-class customers, not just the super wealthy. You said to your team, everybody get ready to meet the demand. We're going to be in production hell.
Yes.
But you didn't expect this kind of production hell, or did you?
No, it's worse than I thought.
Why is that? Why is it harder? What happened?
We got complacent about some of the things that we felt were our core technology. We put too much new technology into the Model 3 all at once. That this should have been staged.
High tech goes in the cars, but it also builds them. This is widely regarded as one of the most robotics-driven auto assembly lines on the planet. Elon, part of the thing I heard about the Model 3 is that there's too many robots. That maybe
Yeah, I agree.
You think so too? That maybe you need more people in here working.
We do.
In some cases, the robots actually slowed the production, right?
Yes, they did. We had this crazy complex network of conveyor belts, and it was not working. So we got rid of that whole thing.
This is cool, Elon.
Yeah.
Realizing it needed an overhaul, Musk personally took over the Model 3 production line at the beginning of April.
We're aiming for really extreme levels of precision, more than any other vehicle in the world.
He says he has resorted to pulling all-nighters at the plant.
When things get really intense, I don't have time to go home and shower and change, so I just sleep here.
I want to see. Where is that?
Yeah, so
I
in
want
this
to
conference room. I mean, it's pretty boring overall, really.
It's actually cold in here too.
Yeah, I like it cold.
So you like it cold?
I sleep on the couch over there.
So you're just laying here on the couch?
Yeah. Last time I was here, I actually slept literally on the floor because the couch was too narrow.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Other company CEOs aren't doing that, and well, the CEO shouldn't be sleeping on the floor, shouldn't be sleeping on the couch. He should be at home getting a good night's rest, right? And the factory should be running well. So why don't we do what we have to do to get the job done? And I love that. What a refreshing change it is. Some people are saying you have too many robots. We do. Some people are saying it's slowing. It is. It absolutely is. We need more people. You're right. Show me that in other CEOs.
Yeah,
you get a glimpse of it here and there, but
it seems to be the common repeating theme, though, right? So they build a car or product, and they want to build in as much technology as possible, partly because they want to get ahead of the game before, to make it as best as possible. But then it causes them trouble, and even the factory themselves, they fully automated when they had to bring back some people, but it pays off. It always pays off. So if you can get past that, it can kill you. If it doesn't kill you a few years later, it is so amazing. We just reported on a show I did with Jeff yesterday that which company? I'm blanking out here. It's got to fire so many people, and it's because they don't have production. So
Volkswagen.
Volkswagen, thank you.
Volkswagen,
yeah. They don't have the automation that they needed to do, and this was the kind of I think it was BYD. Thank you. Sorry guys, it took me a little bit there. BYD CEO Wang announced that they have 600,000 employees versus Tesla's 130,000 employees, and so this is one of those scenarios where in China it's plentiful and cheap to hire labor, so they do. In the US, Tesla knew that I need to be as fully automated. In fact, want the opposite, too automated. But now it pays off today because now the Chinese labor is not as cheap as it used to be. And they have they don't do as much automation as Tesla. So, it's like no wonder the profitability of their cars are just not likely going to improve as well as Tesla can do it because it's all automated. So these things pay off. Yeah.
600,000 is, I would agree with you, a breathtaking number. That's more than the population of Wyoming. I thought, I didn't know what you're talking about. Volkswagen, by the way, has begun a 6-week shutdown of their EV factory because
we got to keep moving. Sorry, Brian.
Got to move on.
We got lots to cover. Right. So we got production hell in 2018, critical Giga Shanghai announced. Then you got Tesla Insurance announced, Giga Berlin announced, CyberTruck revealed, Shanghai launched in record time in a year. They launched it. This is kind of the history of what happened 2018 to 2020. Then you've got the 4680 was revealed, FSD Beta, small group. This was a big moment for everybody. This is starting to Dojo supercomputer announced. So these things that are announced years ago, a couple years ago, they're now bearing fruit this year and next year. This is what you need to look at. Remember that it's 2021. That's when the Tesla bot was announced. It literally almost 2 years. So this September, it'll be its 2-year anniversary. I guarantee you there's going to be AI Day 3, and they're going to show a friggin' multiple bots that's going to be doing amazing things. This is an anniversary that's going to be critical. So Hertz announced that this is just last year. I'm also going to go and show what happened. So that's the history of that. And then you've got, sorry guys, here we go. What's going on? And you got 2022. Okay, the 2022, the year of hell for all of us. But a lot of things happen. I mean, so this is my point. Whenever I show this chart, if you overlaid a stock on top of this, the stock crashed, right? As we all know, right?
Right.
But take a look at everything that happened while the stock was crashing. Okay. Giga Berlin in Texas was launched. 2 new gigafactories were launched. Were happening. A megaback factory at Lathrop in California, an additional factory in Giga Shanghai. This is factories all over the place. The EV credit Obviously, it's a tectonic change in electric vehicle. It almost guaranteed at this point that EVs is going to be a winner. This all happened last year. You got the Tesla bot demo, of course, the Dojo launch, investment grade credit rating, all these things. So yes, it was a terrible year. Was it a terrible year? So let's take a look. So this is 2023 now. We're back to this year from January to June. This is all the things in green that's happened already. I won't go through this because I think we all know what has happened in the first half of this year. Let's talk about the second half of this year, what we expect to happen. We are expecting, as you and I did a show on Model 3 Highland, the Tesla bot and AI Day 3. I'm expecting it. They haven't announced yet there's going to be an AI Day 3, but I guarantee you there will be. It's usually in September. Who knows when? CyberTruck is going to launch. They're going to start showing actual revenue and margins and actual metrics on Tesla Energy. It's finally coming to fruition. It's finally coming to them, becoming a material. And then you've got probably new gigafactories. The Giga Nova groundbreaking has been delayed. But we've still got all these things that are happening. And the big one, of course, is Dojo is going to be the top 5 largest supercomputer in the world by January. And then it's going to be 100 mega exaflops, short order. But for me, Brian, when I look at this, the thing that is going to be historically most important is the Tesla bot. The Tesla bot is something that is going to just change the world more than anything else here. Of course, AI is important, but it's going to be a collaboration of multiple companies to make that happen. It really is Tesla bot, and it's almost a footnote at this point for many of us.
The interesting thing to me on this list is talking about Dojo. Why will it be the biggest? Well, will it actually be the most powerful supercomputer? And do they need? Yes, it will. And I'll tell you why. You have to look at what supercomputers are used for. For example, you can use a supercomputer for weather modeling, and every 10 times bigger you make it, you get another 9. You get another march of 9. Do you need? You run out of 9s that you need with weather, but with traffic, we are not out of 9s. We can use all those 9s. Even when traffic is perfected at level 5, that doesn't mean they're going to stop crunching the numbers and running the math to make it one more 9 safer and one more after that. And so it will absolutely become the biggest. And why not? Especially if they design the chips themselves, they're building the chip. This isn't like you're buying more GPUs off the shelf and adding them to the cluster. That becomes more and more expensive the more you do. When it's your own design and you have to order a fab to build your chips, the more you put in, the cheaper it gets. The more your cost goes down on a marginal basis. So it's going to be a true beast of a computer. And any one of those factors you listed as coming up, any one of them would be enough to get someone who understands it excited. Now, there are, of course, some real rake stompers out there who are still saying things like CyberTruck is still vaporware. It's not happening. And that is the dumbest lie I've ever heard. We've seen the parts. We've seen the line. We've seen the vehicles out for testing on multiple continents. It's here. And now we're seeing people putting up their own renders of different wraps they want. Even the camo wrap they have, I think is beautiful. I think people will, if that's not commercially available, will make it commercially available because it looks great. It's, I've been saying this for years, but right now is an exciting time to be a Tesla investor.
Absolutely. So this is 2023, okay? And first of all, notice how there's a sheer number of lines that I needed to add from 2023 compared to, 2022. This is 2022.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is 1 year. So if you look at these things, these are like multiple years, okay, these tables, but this is 1 year. I thought this was a long set. And I only add key milestones. The one I think is most important. I am actually going to be tracking key moments as well, every little thing that happens. But right now, these are just the top important milestones that I think is going to be not a mover necessarily just for the stock, but milestones for the mover for the product and the company. This is 2023. The other thing I noticed with this list is that you can see now that almost half of it, I don't know what the actual number is, it's got nothing to do with the cars per se, right? We've got lithium refinery, right? We've got batteries. You've got the full self-driving, right? You've got what have your Dojo, Tesla Bot, AI Day, Tesla Energy. Just
very
FSD
exciting
again. Yeah. So this is a transformation. This is a show. Just by looking at this, you can see that the company's transforming in front of our eyes at this point. And these things, and like we saw, and this is the critical thing, right? As you saw from the previous years, things that appear look cool and looks interesting, but they look like, okay, they just started it. A few years later, they're tectonic. They're important. They become massive. They take over the world. So we're talking like, for example, the supercharger, right? It was like, oh, I'm going to start a supercharger network. And here's 6. Well, today there's what, 40,000. It's become the standard for the US. It'll very likely become the standard for the world. It's like Tesla is the Shell Oil, the Chevron for entire world, global. For every car, everything will be plugging in and paying Tesla money. And it's going to be free because it's solar. It's so beautiful, this concept of that. Now they're talking about lithium refinery today. Now they're talking about AI. They're talking about bot, Tesla Energy. All these things are just kind of like just the pieces in there, maybe sometime in the future. And people are concerned that CyberTruck is going to be delayed. Give me a break, man. It's going to happen. Maybe delayed by a year, 2 years, whatever. But that doesn't matter in the scheme of everything.
When I made a video where I was talking about the $1 trillion opportunity for Tesla bots. And the hysterical thing to me was a lot of people saying, Brian, your timelines are crazy. This can't happen for at least 10 years. And I said, so you're telling me in 10 years, it's $1 trillion. I'm in. That's great news. I appreciate that. That's the worst thing it came up with. When you're looking at companies, what you want to spot is disruption. People who can do things differently that results in positive industry-wide changes. Apple does it. Apple says, we're getting rid of the keyboard. Everyone laughs. Steve Ballmer famously laughed and then, of course, followed suit. We're getting rid of the headphone jack. We're getting rid of every little thing we're going to do, and all of a sudden people are following. And Tesla did the same. They said, we're going to build chargers. That's ridiculous. That's crazy. That's stupid. Oh, Rivian's got the Adventure Network. Ford tried their hand at making their own chargers, and everybody's doing well. We're going to get into robotics. That's dumb. You guys are. Oh, Hyundai got into it. Volkswagen got into it, and it just keeps going. We're going to build our own FSD team. Ford famously bought into Argo AI, which they then shut down after seeing AI Day 2 and realizing how far behind they were. And it's innovation after innovation. Now everyone's trying to build their own battery factories. These things were considered ridiculous at the time. And what's next? We know Ford is looking at a from the ground up electric truck redesign for 2025. It's going to be, if you're going from the ground up, is it still going to look like the old truck? Oh, got to wonder how closely are they going to follow in their footsteps? So you found a company that is actually leading, that is actually disrupting, that is actually bringing everyone along for the ride. And people are saying, and here's the problem, Herbert, I can't buy it now. The stock, I can't buy it. It's gone up too much. I'm going to wait for it to come down. And then I'm not going to buy it then because it just went down. You don't buy a stock when it's down. Yeah, it's a gambling disease of the mind at that point.
Yeah. So this is my 2023 list. I guarantee you 2024 is going to be 3 columns. 2025 will be 4 columns. And if it's just going to go skyrocketing because the company's now 130,000 employees, they're going to just be, hemorrhaging in cash. Every one of these investments, seed investments, were going to become, big giant trees and big giant success stories. And we're raising the stakes. We're no longer just talking cars. We're talking energy and AI and bots. These things are massive, like the most massive things you can possibly think of. So, that was one point I wanted to make. And the other thing I wanted to share with folks is that, one of the big things we're all waiting for is FSD, full self-driving. And for a year or 2 years, we're all playing beta. Some of us Twitter community, and we're going, just not going to happen for, years on end. I can see all the mistakes it's making. Yep, it's going to happen, they say, but it won't happen for, I give it 2 years. Some people say 5 years. You are so mistaken. And I'm out here making these kind of comments, and people will say, you're ridiculous. You're just an Uber bull. You're not, based on reality. Go watch 2 videos that was just released last week. Okay. Ashok and what's his name? Phil Dwan. Is that his name?
I'm not sure.
Yeah. Phil Dwan. Yeah. And then if the best 2 videos you should then watch is Dr. Know-It-All. John Gibbs has a YouTube channel called Dr. Know-It-All. He took these 2 videos and he breaks it down and explains it to you. Brian, you got to watch this. If you're watching this, you got to watch these videos. Okay. And I'm going to have John on this channel. He's going to help explain it to all of us that this has absolutely changed the game. It's going to basically, you can hear and see from them that they feel like they've solved FSD. So with the increase in supercomputer compute, with their ability to do a general model, to take in all the videos that any Tesla has driven to any place, ingest it, and then recreate it like you would, let's say, a video game, but precisely. We're talking trees and all the cars on the side of the road, the height of the curbs. They have everything. You don't need to do LiDAR because they've got a LiDAR equivalent just on the 8 cameras in a road. And then they're able to then, like the large language models, they're able to predict what's going to happen in the future. And they're ingesting all this. And so it's like they are now able to not only identify things, they know what is the car should do, what do in multiple scenarios. And it just supercharges their ability to do simulations. They can also ingest just YouTube videos now. That was something I've been asking about. Can you not just take the videos out there and put it in? Anyways, you watch this, and then you'll see these guys say that this technology is going to come out to the customer the second half of this year. This is why you keep hearing Elon saying, I think it's solved. And then him backtracking each year because they had to rebuild the neural nets. But now you've got the 2 engineers themselves saying this. Now, they did not say FSD is going to be solved this year. They didn't say that. But they said that this technology I just showed you is going to be in customers' hand by the end of this year. Okay.
Wow.
So this is happening faster. Dojo's now in production. Dojo, again, accelerates the ability for you to ingest all these videos. And then for the system, the software, the neural net, to be able to run these things and solve these problems. Anyways, yes, there's a lot of leaps in my conjecture here. I'm not willing to say that FSD is going to be solved this year. I'm not going to say that. But it's going to be solved. It's going to be solved faster than you realize because of the progress that they are showing you. Please watch these videos. If you care, if you have an investment in Tesla, watch these videos and you come back and tell me what you read, because obviously I'm a layman, so I don't know. But I'm listening and I'm studying and I'm learning from talking to experts like Dr. Dr. Know-It-All and James Dalma. John obviously talked to James. These are the people that we can ask and get their interpretation of what's happening. Anyways, okay, sorry, that was a little bit of a rant there, but my point is, take a look what happened.
Exciting stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's exciting times, and anyone who says otherwise doesn't know what they're doing, doesn't know what they're talking about, or has more likely a vested interest in pretending otherwise.
Well, we have a vested interest too, though. Let's be honest.
Right, but we are honest. We're wearing it on our sleeves. The people I'm talking about.
My point is,
you said earlier you're a Tesla bull.
Yes. Are you so I'm honest in that way, but am I biased? Am I like you looking at it with rose-colored
are
glasses?
you dishonestly biased? So, and I would say no, because I've heard you criticize in this very episode timelines, and you're pointing out the shortcomings, which is what you need to do to be a wise investor. There was a guy on Twitter today I was talking with who was so furious at Elon and Tesla and all that. And I looked up his profile, and he's in aerospace in Europe. And I was like, there it is. And I pointed that out. And then he said, well, I would, SpaceX is so dangerous. And I go, buddy, it's the most reliable, affordable, consistent. It sucks to suck, but hey, man.
Yeah. So what I do, and you can see this, is I just take dates and I put milestones, and you track everything that's been happening. You define what it is. What exactly did they say they achieved? What they actually did achieve? When did they achieve it? And what are the features? You and I break it down every show, every detail, and we report the news. That's what we're doing. Now, when you do that, you kind of get a sense now of what this company really is, what the company's possibly worth, what the company's about to do. And at this point, you just go take a look at this video and you look back at all the milestones that they've achieved. Just go with that. And then, can this company achieve things? Yes. Can they achieve it profitably? Yes. Do they have big visions? Yes. Do these visions sometimes take longer than they expect? Absolutely. But what happens when they achieve it? They're massive visions. So
they're achieving the impossible. They're turning the
other
impossible
thing that people need to remember
into late.
Is it's exponential curves, and it's very slow. So we just went from 2003. This is the 20-year anniversary of this company. We went from 2003, and it's slow, and then all of a sudden, skyrockets. That's where we are today. We're at the moment when, as you saw in 2023, convergence of all these technologies. When you hear that they're improving Dojo is now in full production, that is your signal to say that this is AI being applied for every part of Tesla's business. I did a whole show with James Dalma, and he shared with me all the areas that AI is helping Tesla, not just in full self-driving. Okay. And then in those two videos that I just talked about, Phil and Ashok confirmed that the existing FSD software and hardware and neural nets is applied to bots. Everything, the general purpose thing. Every bot that's walking down, what you see, it gets mapped, it gets labeled, they understand the world, they know everything that's happening, and they can reproduce the world as soon as the bot's been there once. So, everything is conversion. So as soon as you hear these things getting improved, everything else gets faster. Okay, good. Yeah. Thank you for this show. This was fun.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, Brian.
You know what would be even more fun is if as soon as this broadcast ends, there was a video on my channel starring Herbert. We should do that too.
We are going to do that. As soon as this ends, stick around. We'll go to My Tesla Weekend YouTube channel, and we're going to do a live show, Brian and me, continue the conversation, and also talk about Toyota and others. Thanks, everybody. See you later.